In this video, we're going to talk about how to begin developing skills with logging your macros and tracking your calories so that you can determine how much you can eat at your fun meal and how big of a dessert you can have without feeling guilty or judging yourself or wondering or worrying if you did things the right way. And specifically, we're going to cover the protocol to always eat the right amount of food for the fun meal and the 3 questions to be able to make it easy. 5 keys to success that will accelerate your results. A demonstration where Jaime will take you step by step through her decision-making process so you experience how she successfully makes decisions even during the holidays and when going out with friends, so that she's been consistently releasing fat and improving her muscle mass. And finally, a practice activity for you. There's also a bonus video below that shows you how to accurately identify the nutrition facts in your own personal recipes that have a lot of ingredients. So let's dive in. And I'm just gonna come right out and say it. In order for you to gain unconscious accuracy and genuine skills with eating that allow you to stop counting calories and consistently logging those macros, it is necessary to go through a process where you learn how to accurately count calories and log your macros. It would be like wishing you could drive on the freeway without consistently practicing how to merge and deal with traffic all around you in different types of weather. The only way that you develop this skill is with conscious practice. So let's focus on how this is going to benefit you. Number one, you're going to learn how to use technology without being dependent on it. This means that you're actually going to understand why you're getting your results and why your body composition is changing for the better and why you have more energy and feel so good. And that will put you in command of continuing to get those results for as long as you choose to. Number two, having the skill puts you in full control of understanding just how much you can eat while you release fat and build muscles while you want them. This is very different from trying to estimate it or just working based on your assumptions. And personally, I've been very surprised to discover that I can eat more than I originally thought that I could or should. Even though I eat at a calorie deficit, I'm not hungry. I don't feel deprived, and I have tons of energy because I'm properly fueled and I'm seeing my body composition change in the way that I want. And number three, logging your macros gives you countless opportunities to just wake up and smile because you see the results on your body composition scale that confirm that the progress that matters to you is actually happening. And that alone is worth so much. But also, number four, it stops you from mindlessly eating a bunch of stuff because it trains you to make conscious choices about what actually fuels your body and brain. Number five, it teaches you about what you're eating so that you're starting to see each food as a Tetris piece or a Lego block with certain characteristics. So when you actually need a snack or an ingredient that has a certain macro ratio or a certain number of calories, you know exactly what foods to be able to reach for. And then number six, with enough practice, having this skill ultimately saves you time and a lot of mental energy because you make fewer micro decisions when you're continuing to win and you see the body composition changes that you want. Number seven, by building confidence and accuracy at home, you are in a good position to confidently eat out with friends and family or attend events where you actually just eyeball those portions without even needing a scale. That could happen for you as fast as a couple of months if you're really diligent about consistently practicing what we're about to teach you. So there's just a quick overview of some of the opportunities that are available to you and why this is 100% worth your time and energy and taking it seriously on a regular basis. So let me just address the shift that you're making as you master this skill. This is where a lot of moving pieces start coming together. It might feel a little overwhelming. So if at some point you start to think that you can't do this, I want you to think back to when you were learning how to drive and you drove onto the freeway for the first time. You drove up that ramp, you pressed on the gas to be able to merge with the other cars on the freeway, and you used your blinker on purpose and you found your spot to be able to enter traffic. And although the first time that you did that might have been, let's just say, intense, you not only did it, but you were determined. And so you figured out how to do it again and again. And now it's something that you don't even think about, right? The reason I'm making this comparison is because just like when you learned how to navigate all of the considerations to successfully merge onto the freeway during all kinds of conditions, you can also learn how to navigate all of the conditions to successfully eat the right amount of food so that you have the body, health, and energy levels that you want. Because before you know it, you'll have so much practice that nourishment navigation is a breeze.
I'm going to take you through page 68 of the playbook, so you'll want this page where you can take notes. First, we're covering the protocol to always eat the right amount with your fun meal. It's honestly extremely simple. You can use this to eat at a deficit, a surplus, or your maintenance calories, depending on your current goals. The first step in the protocol is to log your meals throughout the day. This means that you stay up to date because when you eat breakfast, lunch, any snacks or drinks, you're taking a few moments to log your food intake and add your portions directly into the app. So all of your calories and your macros are getting automatically calculated for you. Now, especially when you use the technology that is literally at your fingertips, this is a very fast process and it only gets faster. For example, it now takes me about 10 seconds to log my simple meals, my breakfast, my lunch, and all my snacks, because the Fitbit app remembers my frequently eaten foods and also the portions that I'm eating. So adding them in is extremely simple. You really want to spend those few moments here and there throughout the day adding that in so that logging never turns into a daunting task or something that you have to try to remember. Now, sometimes people think they can get away with not logging macros or counting calories because they made the meal plan and they're eating the same simple meals daily. And it's all the same calories, right? Well, not exactly. Because here's the thing, even if you are eating a lot of simple meals that remove most of the guesswork and consideration, every day is still its own unique day. And you'll still need to log and track for long enough that you develop legitimate skills with this. The reason is because you're human. That means that day to day, you're gonna want to switch things up and keep things interesting with your simple meals. And that variety is what changes your calorie intake and your macro ratio distribution. So for example, one of my simple meals is breakfast. So it's really typical for me to have eggs and a fruit bowl with cottage cheese, but depending on the time of year or where I am and what happens to be available, that exact fruit bowl is not always the same. Another simple meal that I have is my protein shake. I have a couple of different brands that I use that have very different nutrition facts. So depending on which one I'm having, and also depending on any flavors I put in, like if I choose to do peanut butter or a banana or cocoa or certain types of fruit or vegetables, those choices are what keep things interesting, and it's also where the macro and the calorie count can change really rapidly. So my whole point is that even if you are eating a lot of simple meals for breakfast, lunch, and snacks, it's highly unlikely that you will eat exactly the same number of calories every single day because you're going to do things naturally to keep your food interesting so that you enjoy eating it, and that is going to affect your numbers. So the bottom line is you want to stay up to date with your tracking throughout the day because it ends up being the thing in the evening that saves you a ton of time and ensures that you're always in the position to get the results. And when you take step one and logging your meals throughout the day really seriously, it makes it super easy to continue with step number 2, which is consult your food log and priority monitoring sheet so that you can decide how much to eat. And pause the video if you need another moment to finish writing that down. There are basically 3 questions that will help you decide what you can enjoy during your fun meal. The first question is, how many grams of protein do I still need to hit my target? You'll find the answer to this question in the app where you've been logging your food. And in the demonstration that I'll be walking you through, I'll show you inside my Fitbit app and how I figure that out. But basically, you need to be able to identify, do you need a larger portion of protein to make up for not getting as much earlier? Or can you afford to have a smaller portion now? Usually while dinner's cooking, I'll log the estimated amount of protein that I'm planning on eating for dinner so that it's in the app and then I don't have to think about it anymore and I can continue with the next questions and the next choices. The second question is, what number will put me in range for my calorie percent difference? For example, if you're eating in a deficit, you probably want minus 10 to 20%. If you're eating at maintenance, you're aiming for 0. And if you're eating in surplus, you want 10 to 20% extra. Now, you'll find the answer to this question on the spreadsheet with your priority monitoring. And in the demonstration that's coming up, I'm going to show you how I play with this to get it right every time. The third question is, what do I want to have the most? For example, do you want to trade carbs at dinner for carbs at dessert? Is there enough room for an alcoholic drink, or is it better to skip it today? How much of the different side options at dinner do you want? What's the portion size going to be? Now, you'll find the answer to this when you sit with yourself and check in with what your taste buds are telling you they really want today, right now, for this meal. Like for me personally, I often pause and take a moment to be really intentional and mindful to identify What ingredients do I really want to be able to enjoy during this dinner? And which ingredients matter less to me tonight? So for example, old Jaime would have had all the cheese and all the corn chips and all the refried beans, and new Jaime knows that that's a lot of refined carbohydrates and fat, so moderation needs to happen somewhere. So I check in with myself and I think, what do I really want more of? And if I really want cheese, I'll go for a bigger serving of cheese and a smaller serving of chips and refried beans. Or alternatively, if I really want that crunch, I'll have more chips but a smaller portion of cheese and refried beans. There's a compromise happening there. It's important to take what you want into consideration regularly. And it's also important to have structure so that you feel great about your meal and so you feel great after your meal. So basically, that's the two-step process and the 3 questions that make it easy for you to eat the right amount of calories for any goal that you could have. Next, let me share the 5 keys to success with you, and then we can walk through a demonstration step by step where I show you how to answer those kinds of questions and make decisions that support your goal. The first key to success is create wiggle room to eat more by moving your body. Yes, you can create the opportunity to eat more calories when you move your body. That can happen on walks, with exercise, or even something as simple as cleaning your house or walking around shopping. Our official recommendation is to make sure that every week you're getting 4 moderately active days, 3 lightly active days, and 0 sedentary days. Basically, your goal should be to never spend any days in your sedentary zone. And yes, when you exercise more, you can afford to eat more. But personally, I was legitimately surprised that exercising only affords me a couple hundred more calories a day, which translates into savoring a few bites of pasta with a rich sauce, maybe a cake or some ice cream, so I can still achieve my body composition goals. So what I'm saying is, don't assume that you have a giant permission slip to eat anything simply because you're pretty diligent about exercising. It is very important to confirm exactly what it means for you personally to eat more. The good news is that you already have the tool which will help you see exactly how much wiggle room you have. And that tool is your copy of the priority monitoring spreadsheet. Later in this video with my demonstration, I'll be showing you how I use that on a daily basis as part of my decision-making process. Key number 2, use a scale to confirm your serving size. What this means is that you use a kitchen scale like what you're seeing. Now, I know a lot of people groan about using a scale because it's boring or tedious or obsessive, or they just don't want to be that way. But the truth is, if you aren't happy with how your body looks or how your clothes fit you, or your energy levels or your health in general, it's important to confirm that your serving sizes are accurate. I'm still astonished just how fast my body composition changed simply because I started using a scale to make sure that my portions were dialed in. Now, I am not planning on using a scale for the rest of my life, so I regularly test myself to see if I'm eyeballing it correctly. Basically, I consider myself in training, and my goal is to actually develop a skill that frees me from needing to use the scale. But until then, I'm using it as a teaching tool to train me and keep me on track. Key number 3, do a trial log and see if the numbers work for the fun meals. A trial log is when you add the food that you're planning on eating into the app so that you can determine the impact it'll have on your total calorie count or your macro distribution. If you discover a particular combination of foods doesn't work, you just delete the entries and you feel zero regret because you didn't eat it and you did not make a mistake. It's not necessary to do this kind of trial logging when you're eating simple meals. And that's because those combinations are solid, you've already thought about them, and they're not putting your goal at risk. The time that you want to do the trial logging is when you're planning on going off script and you want to do something more fun or spontaneous. I learned this the hard way because 8 days into my macro logging journey, after 1 week of being good, there was one night when I really wanted some kind of dessert, and I searched on Google for high protein desserts until I found a recipe for a single serving treat that called for ingredients that I actually had. So after I ate my dessert, I logged all the ingredients, and I was shocked to discover that I accidentally ate an extra 414 calories in that dessert. So yeah, it was high protein, also high fat. And in the end, I ate at a surplus instead of my goal of eating at a deficit. Now, that mistake was a great learning experience because it taught me about the value of trial logging and how it can really give me the best of both worlds. So trial logging is how I get to have some of something without sacrificing my goal. Because whenever I play around with the portion size in the app, I normally discover that I can have some of whatever it is that I want, at least a few bites of it, and even still stay in a deficit. So I've developed an incredible amount of patience and discipline because I'm learning to prioritize my ultimate goals. And I've also gotten a lot better at savoring and slowing down and really learning to appreciate the bites of what I am eating. Ultimately, what this means is that nothing is off limits. I can have whatever I want, I just need to eat in moderation. I get the body I want and my energy levels are incredibly consistent and sustainable. And all of that happens with the trial logging. Key number 4 is adjust your food log based on what you actually end up eating. This means that if you eat more of something or less than something than you planned on eating, you go into the app and you fix the portion size so that it is accurate. For example, last night I did a trial log and I assumed that I would have 10 grams of Parmesan cheese on my pasta. 10 grams sounded like a good number, but then a few minutes later, as I was actually putting my plate together, I started grating that Parmesan cheese and I realized like, wow, that's like a lot of Parmesan cheese. I didn't want that much. So there was no way I was gonna eat 10 grams of Parmesan cheese. I didn't even want 2 grams. So I went back into the log and I corrected that part of it to be accurate because that freed up a ton of calories that I could put on something else. So the benefit of editing your food log is that your macros will adjust. You don't have to think about it. It'll just do it for you. And you'll have a more accurate picture of where you're really at. And when you're talking about 1 gram of cheese, the impact is pretty small, but you want to train yourself to edit your food log based on what you actually eat. Because if you don't actually eat that last half slice of pizza, or you realize you actually don't want the rest of the brioche bun on your hamburger, or you leave French fries on your plate, you will see a much more significant impact on your calorie count and macro distribution. Key 5, add repeating reminders to log your macros. Now, logging your macros is not something that most people have automatic habits around remembering to do. I mean, why would you? That said, in order for you to see the results that you want, it is really important to set yourself up for success by creating reminders, either in your phone with the alarm app or on your calendar or on your agenda. Whatever is going to be the most effective method for you, that is where you should make your reminders. You're probably going to want a total of 3 or maybe 4 reminders, one for breakfast, one for lunch, one for snacks, and one while you're still trying to figure out what you're going to eat for dinner. When you're eating your simple meals that you've already planned out on the meal plan, it's fine to log those after you eat them because you already did the calculations to make sure that they support your goal. However, when you're getting ready to eat your fun meal, it is best to have that reminder go off before you eat because that's how you'll improve your decision-making process and then get results faster. So please pause the video now and take a moment to create those 3 or 4 reminders at the times that are best for your schedule. And yes, pause the video and actually do it. You will thank me later. Okay, so those are the 5 keys to successful eating, and you're familiar with the 2-step protocol to always eat the right amount and the 3 questions that you can ask yourself. So like Craig mentioned before, this part of nourishment navigation has the same kind of multitasking that was required of you the first time that you drove a car on the freeway. You didn't learn how to drive without practice, and you are not going to learn how to navigate your nutrition without practice either. There are a lot of things to consider at the same time, and although it can seem like a lot, you have the ability to create automatic habits that kick in for you, especially if you follow the protocol, ask yourself the questions, and use these keys. It's okay if you make some mistakes like I did. All you have to do is know that it's not really a mistake, it's just a learning process, and be patient, keep showing up, knowing that ultimately you're gaining a lifetime skill and fueling your body and brain for peak performance. So next, I'm going to walk you through this demonstration where you get to see my real real life decision making process. So we're going back in time from when I was choosing a dinner. I'm excited to demonstrate for you this protocol to always eat the right amount for the fun meal. I'm bringing you in with me as I'm making real choices about what I am going to be eating for dinner. So right now I am looking at today's situation. As I mentioned with the protocol, the first step is to log the meals throughout the day. You can see here, I've been doing that. I've got my afternoon snack in there already, my lunch, my morning snack, and my breakfast. All of that is already loaded, so I don't need to think about any of that. Oh, and I just noticed actually that this has double banana, so we're gonna delete that. Oh, maybe it didn't get logged for morning snack. Hang on. Let's see. Oh yeah, there we go. That's what happened. Oh, no, there is still double banana. All right, okay, so we're gonna delete that, right? Make sure that it is accurate for what actually happened. So that is me logging meals throughout the day. So at this point now, what I wanna do is consult this food log and really look at my priority monitoring sheet so I can figure out how much of dinner I can eat. There's 3 things I'm gonna have: chicken, quinoa, and broccoli. And especially because the quinoa is pretty high calorie and also high protein, it's important to just play with this a little bit and adjust some of this with some trial logging to make sure that it's all going to work out and keep me in my deficit. So the first question is how many grams of protein I need to hit. I'm going to want to have about 28 to 38 grams. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in my chicken because that's easy. This is a place I know that if I have about 142 grams of that, you can see here the nutrition facts, that gives me like an easy 29 grams. So I'm gonna log that here. That's basically guaranteed. And then the next thing I'm gonna have is some broccoli. So we're gonna scan that. And I did weigh it before, so it's really about 95 gram portion for me. And when I double check here on the nutrition facts, I can see I actually get 2 grams of protein there with that broccoli. Yay! So we're gonna log that one as well. All right, and now it's gonna be a question of how much quinoa. So you can see here that, oops, it didn't sync properly. So let's just go back here. Let's just sync this. Sometimes you gotta play with it a little bit to get it to really show up the right way. There we go. Okay, now the broccoli is showing. And now I'm gonna put the quinoa on. Okay, so the question here at this point is like, how much am I gonna have? I cooked a cup, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna eat all of it necessarily. I would like to have as much of it as I can just because like here, when I look at this, like here in this situation, we can see that my total number of calories here is at 1392, and I do wanna hit more than that. So at this point, I've put in an estimate of where I'm at, but I can tell you that it is going to be low, and I do want to get in more calories. I'd like to take in more than this. So like maybe, I don't know, let's see what happens. If I do a half a cup, if I eat half the quinoa that I made, that would put me at 320 calories. That would be 12 grams of protein. So let's just do that real quick and just see where it's at. So that puts me at 1,552 calories in. Now, the thing is that I still have a few more hours to go today, and I want to check the next question, which is really what number will put me in range for my calorie percent deficit. Now, I want to be in a deficit that is about 10 to 20% typically, and I don't really micromanage this. So at this point, I'm not super concerned about hitting it. So I'll change apps. And over here, I go to my Google Sheet where I've got my priority tracking. All right, and I'm gonna zoom in on this and we're gonna look at where we're at today because I don't know exactly what my activity level is gonna be, right? This is where there's some guessing involved in this. But what I do know is that today I did Zone 2 Stairmaster. I did not do back, which a few days ago I did. So one of the tricks that I can use when I'm looking at this is I can look at the number of calories that I burned a few days ago when I was doing a similar activity, right? Today I'm doing Zone 2 Stairmaster, and I also did that Zone 2 Stairmaster back here. So if I burned 1797 doing that, I'm probably gonna be in the range of, I mean, even if I'm just going to estimate, it's probably going to be something like maybe 1774, just because it was a little bit less than that. Okay, so if we put that number there, and then I play with my calories consumed over here. Let's double check, because of course I forgot the number. Oh, okay. So we're trial logging to see if I eat this 1552, where does that put me? So here I'm going to type this in. Okay, and then I'm going to scroll over, and that puts me at minus 12.51%, which is great. So basically I can eat that if I want to. I could have up to what did we say, half a cup of quinoa, which honestly is kind of a lot. I don't even know if I'm gonna want to eat that much. So after I have dinner, I may adjust this, because maybe I'm only gonna eat like really a third of a cup. And if I do that and I adjust it, that's going to open up a gap where I could have some dessert. But even with the situation that I have right now, just checking this column here, priority number 3, with that percent difference at a deficit of 12.5%, I'm good. And I could have half a cup of quinoa if I decide that I really want to have all of that. I could put some sauce on it, butter, or have some dessert. So basically I'm in good shape with this. And you can also see when we look at these macro percentages here that those numbers are nice. They're not exactly 33%, but they're very close. After I recorded that trial logging, I ate dinner, and I was correct. It did not go 100% completely as planned, so I went back in to record this next part where I show the adjustment that I made. I just finished eating dinner, and I was correct that half a cup of quinoa is a lot of quinoa. So I probably had something more like maybe a third of a cup. You can see that really drops the calorie count. That also drops the protein count here and the carb count. I'm going to save this. And now we can see the macros have readjusted themselves. Now my total calorie in is 1424. I didn't add on here any oil, and I did have some oil with this, so I should put on here a little bit of olive oil. Probably about half a tablespoon of that. So we'll put that on there. That pops it around just a little bit. What I'm thinking at this point, because I've now hit my protein target of 130 grams, which is great, I'm gonna have some chocolate. So I'm gonna log this guy. Put that on there as evening snack. All right, and there we go. Everything has readjusted itself. So probably now today, my total calories in is something like 1544. I am gonna stop eating because of where I am at. Just in terms of the time of day, normally I stop eating around 7, but today, just with my work schedule and then going to the gym, everything's a little bit later. So it's like 7:40, and what I will do is adjust the time that I go to bed to make sure I give myself a good 3 hours to really just digest, because that was kind of a lot of quinoa. So the last thing that I want to do here today is edit my priority monitoring and refining sheet. I estimated earlier that I was going to eat 1552 calories, but we know that is not actually what happened. So we're going to change this to 1544, press enter. And now we can see that these numbers have adjusted themselves. The calorie difference is now slightly different, and my percent deficit is minus 12, basically minus 13%, which is great because it puts me in my sweet spot anywhere between 10 to 20%. Hopefully that demonstration was helpful and gave you clarity about how to apply skill 6. Now it's your turn to practice bringing this skill into your own life. So on page 74, you can see that there are some instructions for this activity. You're gonna figure out how much you can afford to have for today's fun meal by using the 2-step protocol, the 3 questions that help you decide, and the 5 keys of successful eating from page 73. The first step is to confirm that today's entries in your food logging app are accurate so far. Then you're gonna consult your priority monitoring spreadsheet while you work through the 3 questions. And finally, you're going to do a trial log by adding entries of what you anticipate you'll eat for today's fun meal. Adjust the items and serving sizes as needed until you're hitting your sweet spot numbers. Basically, you're just going to do what you saw me demonstrate a few minutes ago, but you're doing it for yourself. And here's the thing, out of everything that you're learning in nourishment navigation, skill 6 is one where you need to be very patient and very persistent because it's where a lot of moving pieces come together. You're doing a lot of multitasking at the same time that you're living your life. It matters more for you to be consistent with skill 6 daily than it matters for you to be perfect every single time. It's okay if you make some mistakes. It's okay if you're not totally confident about exactly how to do this. And it's okay if you're still trying to figure it out for a while. For the next few days, just do your best with getting started because you will get better the more opportunities that you have to practice. And we really look forward to seeing you in the weekly call so that we can discuss your questions, review your priority monitoring spreadsheet with your updated data, and help you make adjustments if necessary.